Welcome back, everyone. So, guys, in the previous lecture, okay, we had talked about EBS volume, and today we'll be doing a practical on EBS volume. So, guys, this is 𝐻𝐸𝐴𝐵 for the Kiran Academy. So, we'll start with the session. So, पिछले लेक्चर में हमने EBS volume को डिस्कस किया था. So, today's session, we'll first of all go to EC2 and launch a EC2 instance. Guys, I'm going to keep this thing very simple. मैं इसको एकदम simple रखना चाहता हूँ. So for this reason, I'm going to stick to Windows. If anybody wants the same thing on Linux, so you can put it on comment. Definitely, we'll put a lecture in where we'll be creating a Linux machine. अभी विंडोज मशीन के साथ में EVS वॉल्यूम किस तरीके से हैंडल करना होता है, किस तरीके से उन्हें मैनेज करना होता है, ये मैं बताऊंगा. तो सबसे पहले मैं एक इंस्टेंस लॉन्च कर लेता हूँ. आई विल जस्ट जंप ऑन टू इंस्टेंसेस and I'm going to launch a new EC2 instance. So basically, this is a Windows server. I'll call it Win1, and it is going to be Windows. अभी Windows का मैं जो server launch करने वाला हूँ, it is going to be Server 2022 base edition. अच्छा, इसके साथ साथ I'll not create a small virtual machine, something like T2 micro. I'm going to go for slightly larger. In one of the previous lectures, when I've shown you how to launch a Windows EC2 instance, I've shown you I normally use T2 medium instance, which carries 2 virtual CPU, 4 gigs of memory. तो मैं सेम इंस्टेंस साइज यूज करने वाला हूँ इस लेक्चर में भी. एक्जैक्टली दूसरे जो इंस्टेंसेस है वो स्लाइटली छोटे हो जाते हैं. ठीक है, मतलब उनमें कैपेसिटी कम होती है, तो दैट विल बी लाइक नॉट अ गुड थिंग. तो ताकि मेरा सिस्टम लाइक सारे एप्लीकेशंस रन कर सके स्मूथली. ओके, और लाइक इसके पास सफिशिएंट अमाउंट ऑफ हार्डवेयर रिसोर्सेस हो, तो इट बी बेटर लाइक आप T2 मीडियम इंस्टेंस चूज कर लीजिए. आई एम स्टिकिंग टू दिस. की पेयर आई एम गोइंग टू चूज द पेयर दैट वी हैव क्रिएटेड अर्लियर. लास्ट वन थिंग, आई जस्ट चेक पेयर वन जो है, जो लास्ट टाइम मैंने बनाया था, पेयर वन, डू आई हैव द पब्लिक द पेम फाइल फॉर इट. ओके, so here we have the PEM file for pair 1. Okay, we'll be using the same file anyways, so we can use this pair 1. Okay, तो गाइज मैंने आपको ये भी बताया था कि अगर आपके पास पीपीके फॉर्मेट है तो पीपीके से पेम में कन्वर्ट कैसे करते हैं. तो पीपीके इज नॉर्मली यूज विद पुटी. इट इज पुटी प्राइवेट की. तो प्राइवेट की के दो टाइप्स होते हैं, दो फॉर्मेट्स होते हैं. एक पुटी प्रोप्राइटरी की है, ठीक है, और दूसरा पेम फाइल है जो ओपन एसएसएच की होती है. पेम फाइल चाहिए अगर आप विंडोज की न्यू मशीन पर कनेक्ट करना चाहते हो. तो मेरे पास है पेम फाइल, पेयर वन का पेम फाइल है. बाकी कोई स्पेशल सेटिंग्स की जरूरत नहीं है. नेटवर्किंग डिफॉल्ट होगा तो भी चल जाएगा. एवरीथिंग इज गुड. वी विल लॉन्च द इंस्टेंस. So guys, I have created this Windows instance and I need to wait like at least 5-6 minutes for this Windows instance, okay, to be in running mode and all the backend services should be properly be in running mode. तब मैं इसको connect कर सकता हूँ. Okay, so we are going to pause for 2-3 minutes, okay, until this thing gets completed. Okay. Okay. So guys, after waiting for some time, since it is a Windows machine, क्योंकि ये Windows machine है, after we wait for some time, now we are able to connect to this machine. We'll select it. Okay. We can see the public IP of this machine. I will copy the public IP and put it into remote. Okay. Remote desktop connection. And in here, I'll paste this public IP. Okay. ठीक है. So after pasting this public IP, we can click connect option, and now it should ask us for user credentials, username and password. So in this case, what we have to do is, after selecting upon the machine, we'll click on connect button. Okay. We'll click on RDP client, and under RDP client, here we should see the default username is administrator. We can copy the username and paste it over here. And for password, we can click the button get password. Upload the private key file. Here we have the button to upload the private key file, and we have this pair1.pem file. We will click on it and decrypt the password. And very quickly, like, we'll copy the password, put it over here, and we should be having access to the Windows virtual machine. If I click OK, we should be getting access to our Windows virtual machine. Okay, I'll cancel out of this, and now we are connected to our Windows server. Okay. Acha, on the Windows server, if I right click on my start button, and if I go to computer management, if I go to this setting called computer management, so guys, under computer management, under disk management, we should see there is only one disk 0. Okay, clear? So guys, the actions area jo rehta na, many a times this is of no use for us. Okay, so I can just switch it off from here, and now we have much of the screen available for us. तो डिस्क 0 जो हमारा है सी पार्टीशन, एक ही हार्ड डिस्क है हमारे पास इस वर्चुअल मशीन में, दूसरी हार्ड डिस्क है ही नहीं हमारे पास. ओके, नाउ माय रिक्वायरमेंट इज टू ऐड अनदर EC2 instance, another virtual hard disk in that virtual machine. So first thing that we have to understand is this: Windows 1, this machine is created in Asia Pacific Northeast 1. We have to understand and we have to realize the availability zone where the machine is created. It is created in Asia Pacific Northeast 1. I'll copy this. मतलब ये copy नहीं भी करो तो चलता है. You just need to remember this. तो Asia Pacific Northeast 1 है. I am going into EBS Elastic Block Store, and under this option we have volumes button over here. After clicking upon volumes button, okay, we can create a new volume. Okay, you can choose what kind of volume you want. अभी GP2 वॉल्यूम में ये होता है कि GP2 वॉल्यूम में जैसे आप यहाँ पे साइज इंक्रीज करते हो, ये IOPS वैसे इंक्रीज होता है. तो now you have 300 IOPS. Out of 3000 IOPS, you are only going to use 300 IOPS because your hard disk is of 100 GB. मतलब आपका जो EBS वॉल्यूम है 100 GB का है. तो if the volume is of GP2 type, okay, and like the size of volume is the factor that controls the IOPS on your volume. If you increase the size of volume, for 100 GB it was 300, na? Okay, for 1000 GB it is 3000. So remember guys, as you change the IOPS, your performance also change. I'm sorry, as you change the size of your EBS volume, your performance is also going to change. Okay, if I just make it of 5 GB, like you will get very less performance of 100 IOPS. Okay, so basically I'm going to create a EBS volume of type GP2, and it will be of 5 GB. Whereas if I go for GP3, general purpose 3, you can mention the size and you can select what is the number of IOPS that you want. GP3 volumes na, they can go up to 16,000 IOPS. Okay, even GP2 volumes is also the same. So GP2 volumes, they get a burst up to 3000 IOPS. Okay, and when we talk about IO1, this can go all the way up to uh, it can go all the way up to like 250 IOPS because it is 5 GB in size. If I make it like 5000 GB in size, so now it can show you up to 64,000 IOPS. So guys, as soon as you are changing the size, your IOPS is also going to change. Okay. For just 5 GB hard disk, it was only showing us like 250 IOPS. Okay, a maximum. And the default was 100. So minimum was 100 IOPS and maximum was 250 IOPS. So guys, remember, in GP2 and IO1, the size of volume is really very important. Okay. The larger the volume is, the more IOPS you will be getting to use. And the more IOPS you have, the more better your applications and your data read write will be performing. Okay. IO2 अगर मैं जाऊं, if I go to IO2, so IO2 hard disks are very like powerful. They can go up to a maximum. मतलब IO2 का maximum size, पहली बात, if you notice here, it can go up to 64 terabytes in size, a single volume. And your IOPS, again, like because it is 5 IOPS, because it is 5 GB, IOPS is a maximum of 5000. If I make it 5000 GB, you get 256,000 IOPS. Okay. So IO2, the block IO volumes, okay, these volumes can go all the way up to 256,000 IOPS. Okay. And IO1 can go up to 64,000 IOPS. GP3 can go up to 16,000 IOPS and GP2 can go all the way up to 3,000 IOPS. Okay. So guys, it is all depending upon like GP2 and IO1 volumes. Their IOPS depends on the size of volume. Okay. Whereas in the other formats, again in GP3 as well, size is really very important. In IO2 also size is also very important. If I change the size, the performance really shrinks down. Okay. So many a times it is really important that your performance in order to obtain a very good, very powerful performance, your size has to be larger. Okay. Chaliye, anyway. So I'm going to create a volume of 5 GB in size. Guys, remember, please don't create a volume in any other availability zone. Create the volume in the availability zone where your EC2 instance is going to be. Our EC2 instance is in Asia Pacific Northeast 1 है, तो हम लोग वहीं पे हमारा वॉल्यूम भी बनाने वाले. ठीक है. इस वॉल्यूम को अगर आप चाहो तो नाम दे सकते हो. You can add a name tag to this. I'll call it like I'll call it volume 1. Okay. And finally, like you can create the volume. So guys, this volume is now created. You created a volume, it does not mean like it is already attached. So creating a volume is first part and attaching to your instance is the second part. Until now, if I just take you into my instance, okay, we don't have anything other than this disk 0. Okay. So even if I do a refresh, if I'm hitting Control F5, okay. Okay, if I do a right click and is there an option of refresh? Even if I do a couple of refresh, nothing happens over here. We only have disk 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize this, select my volume 1, right click on it, and there is an option called attach volume. Achha guys, the thing is this, I have to refresh my screen because it is still showing creating process. Okay, the status is still showing creating. I'll do a refresh here. And now we can see our volume is available now. Okay, we can select our volume and right click this and we can attach the volume. Okay, we have an option to attach the volume and this volume is going to be attached to an instance, Windows 1. Okay, and you have to choose a device label. You can choose anything from this. Like I'll just choose from here. कुछ तो भी मैंने select कर दिया, 𝐿VDY. Okay, and attach the volume. Acha, the thing is this. Actually, the thing was I was supposed to create a volume called GP2. If I create one more volume, I'll create GP2 volume over here of size like let's say 3 GB, let's say. Okay, Asia Pacific Northeast 1 and add a tag. I'll call it like name and I'll give it a name like volume 2. Okay, create the volume. Now, upon creating the second volume, actually the first volume was IO2 volume. Okay. The instance that I've created, okay, that instance will not be able to like use this volume, volume 1. Okay. So I'm going to create GP2 volume, and here I'm going to attach the volume. Acha, once again, I'll just have to quickly do a refresh. If the volume is in available state, now you can select the volume, volume 2, and attach it. I'll select one instance. This is my Windows 1 server, and here I'll choose one drive label here. Okay, XVDC will be good for me, and attach it. So very quickly, like this should get attached, and the status should change to in use. Any volume that is in use cannot be attached to another instance. Here you can see attach button is now grayed out. Okay, because its status is in use because it is attached over here. Now you can see this volume of 3 GB available to us. We have to do is right click here, bring it online, because if in case like your volume is not online, you will not be able to partition it or format it. You have to first bring it online. And once the volume comes online, okay, you have to initialize your volume. Okay. Initialization is selecting which kind of partitioning system you want to use. You can use MBR and you can use GPT. MBR stands for Master Boot Record. MBR can be used with volumes or hard disks which are up to 2 terabytes in size. You can anyway use it on a hard disk which is 10 terabyte in size, but in that case, MBR will only partition the initial 2 terabytes of hard disk, because the maximum limit that MBR can use is 2 terabyte. So rest 8 terabytes of your hard disk, okay, will be unused. So remember this, MBR is for smaller sized hard disks. Okay. And there is another problem with MBR. You can create only 4 partitions on it. Okay. Either you can make 3 primary partition and one like extended partition where you can create logical drives, or you can create 4 primary partitions. It's your choice. But anyway, GPT, it can be used with hard disk up to 64 terabytes in size, and in fact, much larger hard disks as well. Okay. So even if you have any hard disk, like we don't have currently any physical hard disk of 64 terabytes in size, but let's imagine in future you may have like a hard disk which is very large. Okay, very large. It is hundreds or thousands of terabytes in size. So like MBR cannot be used with such disk. You will be able to use GPT over there. Okay, so GPT is for larger size disk. But GPT also allows you to create up to 128 partitions, all of which can be primary partitions. So guys, in the modern day, we normally use GPT. Even if you have a tiny hard disk such that the size of hard disk is just 3 gigabytes, you can still stick to GPT. Okay. So once you've selected which type of partitioning system you are using, you can right click over here and you can create a new simple volume. Okay. You can hit next button, again next. If in case like you want to split this hard disk into 2 or 3 partitions, you can mention the size of partition as per your requirement. For now, I'm just going to skip out of this. You can change your drive later if you want. I'll choose Z drive. Okay. I'll hit next, and here you can set your volume name, volume label. I'll call it like data. And we can opt for perform a quick format and do next and then finish. So in a few minutes, we should be able to see a volume of 3 gigabytes in size. The Z volume should be there. Okay. And Z volume is just 2.98 GB, that is 3 GB in size. You can have some files created over here. For example, let's say I'll create a file like file 1. And in this file, like we can mention this is a test file. This is a test file. Okay. So guys, I just mentioned a small message here. Control S to save this, and we can close out of here. So guys, on my Z partition, that is just of 3 gigabytes in size, I created a file called file 1. Now, there is one property with EBS volume, and that is like you can extend its size. So let's say like the size of my EBS volume is 3 gigabytes. My user wants slightly more space. Just imagine like you have assigned an EBS volume via your instance to a group of users. Now the users have stored a lot of data over there, and the space on the EBS volume is almost exhausting. So basically what we can do here is we can extend the size of EBS volume. Earlier, the size was 3 gigabytes. Okay. On the demand of the users, or when you feel like the size of volume should be increased, you can right click on it and there is a button called modify volume. And with this button of modify volume, you can do is you can increase the size of disk. Now remember, it has to be an integer value. You cannot use decimal points over here. And second important thing, it should be larger than the current size. If the current size is 3 GB, if I make it like 2 GB here, it will tell you, it will give you a message like the size of volume can only be increased, not decreased. So what we can do is like we can change the size to like, let's say 5 gigabytes, which is slightly larger than 3 gigabytes. Okay. And now we can do is modify. And if you're increasing the size of volume, you must extend the file system. So inside your hard disk, your partition will still be that you will be still be able to use will be of 2 GB in size or 3 GB in size. That was the earlier size. If you have increased the size of your volume, the internal partition should also be extended. This is what Amazon wants to say. Okay. Again, like another point, Amazon says the modification might take a few minutes to complete. So the changes may reflect in a few minutes. Okay, it may not be instantaneous. You are charged for the new volume configuration after volume modification starts. So from here, you will be charged for new utilization. Okay. Anyway, I'm good with this. I'll create the volume, modify the volume size. Okay. So guys, our volume earlier was of 3 GB. And if I do a refresh, now it will be of 5 GB. Then Amazon, it is reflecting. But if I go back into my virtual machine, and if I go back to my computer management, now we can see a hard disk of 2.98 GB. But if I do, even if I select it, so here basically we can see we have a new 2 GB of allocated space. इसका मतलब ये है कि as of now, ठीक है, Z partition is still of 2.96 GB. Even if I do Control F5, even after doing significant number of refresh, still my Z partition is of 3 GB. So remember, by changing the size of your volume from AWS doesn't changes the size of real volume. So what you have to do is you have to right click here and you have to extend your volume. There is a button called extend volume. Click next and you can add this 2.48 GB. Okay, you can add this 2.48 GB, the new extension, and click next and then finally finish. So what this does is that earlier the size was 2.96 GB. If I do Control F5 to refresh, now the new size is 4.96 GB. So the size of your volume has increased, and inside your volume you still have the file that we created earlier. This file is a test file. This is a test file. Okay. So guys, I hope like everything is clear to all of you. Okay. So maintaining, managing, creating, and configuring EBS volumes is really very simple. Okay. So you have a very easy and simple process of creating EBS volume. EBS volume is a virtual hard disk. Like you have a virtual machine, you have a virtual hard disk. And this virtual hard disk in Amazon's terminology is known as EBS volume. EBS volumes can only be mounted on one instance at a time. And lastly, like EBS volumes, okay, can be extended. They cannot be shrink down. Okay. So guys, this was all about the implementation of EBS volume. Okay. So guys, I hope like the entire information was very useful to you. If you want the same practical with Linux, let us know. Put it on the chat or the comments area. We will definitely show you the same practical via Linux. In this practical, I had used Windows operating system to partition and to format my EBS volumes. So people coming from the background of Linux, let me know if you want to see how we can use EBS volume with Linux operating systems. I'll definitely be very happy to give a session on that. So guys, if you have any comments, you can please come to the comment area and put it over there. If you have any feedbacks, you can actually share your feedbacks. So guys, if you want any other session, any other topic, you have a special requirement, so please let us know. We'll provide you with that lecture very soon. So guys, आज के लिए इतना ही. This was the objective for today's lecture. Next lecture, we'll be talking about some different thing. Okay guys, good day, goodbye. Thank you.